Harry, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, great to be here. Real pleasure. Thanks very much for inviting me.
Harry's joining us from Panama today. So first guest that's recorded from Panama. So excited about this. But let's just start out with a little bit about kind of your background and story growing up and kind of what brought you to what you're doing today.
Great. Yeah, no, that's no problem. So kind of where I kind of come from is a kind of a tech background. I used to work in Microsoft back in the 90s, and after working there for a few years, I left and set up a Lloyd's brokerage focused on insuring the internet as we had it back then. That was the idea, and we set up a thing called Safe Online, and we had this big vision of insuring the internet, and that went very well. And the big thing there was to get involved in new risks. And the only problem with that, from my point of view, was that we were not only trying to sell insurance over the internet, but it was cyber insurance, and also in America, and it's all new. And I've learned one thing is that you should only attempt one new thing at a time in your business, not three or four new things. So that was very hard and complicated. But through the sort of 2000s, I got into the kind of what we're now called InsurTech, and building insurance technology for people like Aon and Willis and Marsh and various Lloyd brokers in the London market, and gave me a real kind of firm background in what was required to process small business insurance. But then the thing I learned out of there was that the insurance industry, the kind of level of innovation is quite low, and their propensity to buy new systems and new technology is also very, a long digestion period, let's say that, and which most people think of as a 6 months, but with insurance, I think it's more like 5 years or something. So it takes a long time for them to buy something. So I kind of hopped out of insurance in around about 2010, thinking that I would never work in insurance again, and just go into data analytics, because that was kind of an interest of mine, getting into the new technologies, of emerging technologies of data analytics, AI, machine learning, and things like that. And very kind of quickly picked up what was turned out to be another insurance client, which was looking after the auto industry and looking after kind of cars that come off production lines and then get shipped to dealers, and sort of tracking and monitoring all that, and building the technology for that type of business, and building analytics into that, and that became kind of a big part of our business. And then around about sort of 2014, 2015, with the emerging sort of AI, technologies coming into play, got much more interested in insurance, and because of the gig economy came around, and ensuring these sort of micro policies and very sort of fast programs, and that really brought together my kind of new interest of technology, insurance, and data, and putting all those things together, and decided to set up what has now become the micro insurance company, which is really bringing all these passions of mine together, as well as kind of ensuring what we call the unserved, so people that typically don't have insurance or can't get insurance in America and around the world. And that's kind of a 4 billion sort of person and maybe 100 million kind of company sort of market that we're sort of we're looking at, and that's kind of where I've got to today, like building that.
All right, a couple things before we get into that. You said doing one new idea at a time instead of three or four, which is a testament to focus. Can you just dive a little deeper why you think that way?
Yeah, well, back in the day when we were doing Safe Online, it was you had to kind of explain not only the internet to people that you're trying to sell business to, and how they could actually process insurance on the internet, but also what cyber risks were, and what cyber meant, and then how they might mitigate those risks, and why they should care about them. And I think it's taken like 20 years or so for most businesses to kind of start caring about the internet risks and the cyber risks. So I think that's the sort of gestation period of insurance. And really, I always think back to those days. I should have done like travel insurance or something, which was just travel insurance online, and that would have been much easier to actually explain to people. Like, here it is. It's right here when you buy your ticket. Just tick here, and there's insurance. That would have been much easier in trying to explain risk management on the internet and how hackers work and all those things. So it's getting much more. My sort of business head now is all about focus and pointing the direction at kind of one thing at a time, and then becoming an expert in that and dragging along all the not kind of convince people about different methodologies of selling and different processes of selling, but just to make sure you focus on kind of the one big thing.
And then, as far as the insurance industry as a whole, kind of being slow to adopt technology and new ways of thinking, is that just because it's such an old industry filled with a lot of kind of folks that have been in it forever? Is there a specific reason why they're slow to adopt?
Yeah, that's a tricky one, isn't it? All my mates. I think very much so. I think it is very much a people business, insurance, and if the people don't want to do something on in any industry, then typically it won't happen. So the insurance industry is a risk company, risk industry. It's like risk adverse, which is a good thing. So I think in adopting new ideas and new risks and new things, the nature of the people in it are kind of risk averse. So it's very hard for them to get their heads around, changing and change. So, uh, where we see success today is by, actually hiring people that might be in the insurance industry, but are more more willing to take risks in their own sort of personality, and they're the people that I think are leading this change. The sort of entrepreneurial people within insurance, which become potentially a rare breed maybe in insurance.
Got it. All right, so you've brought all those ideas together and you've launched microinsurance.com. What is microinsurance.com? How do you describe it?
Yeah, so we're a company that is first a technology company, and we process high volume policies straight through processing, and focused on kind of very kind of what we call relevant products. And by that we mean working with like program partners like telcos or platform companies, and identifying a risk that they might have. So it might be, say, with a say like an Uber type company, their drivers might want a policy for when their car is in the workshop. So we would cover them for those 1, 2, or 3 days while their car's in the workshop. Or if somebody goes to hospital, then we would cover them for the 2 or 3 days when they go to the hospital. But these aren't kind of medical covers or car covers. They're more like income covers that cover them for that lost income. So we look for specific risks, a particular kind of like parametric way of underwriting that risk and paying the claims, putting all that together and building an insurance program out that is it's got a kind of a high volume, high degree of uh, high turnover of policies, and then the claims can be automated and processed very quickly as well. So we're bringing that the technology play along with the insurance play together, and that's kind of what we do within our company. We we operate in about 12 countries around the world today, and we're looking to build out our insurance capability in the near future to help us, in places like the US and South America, etc., to grow out our business there.
So when in the example you just gave about Uber and kind of like an Uber driver, is the Uber driver the one signing up with you, or does Uber sign up with you and then you kind of white label a policy that any of their drivers can sign up for?
Yeah, so I mean, we actually work with Kareem, which is part of Uber, but that's exactly right. We work with a company, the partner to produce a white label product, or a sort of a product that we partner with them, and then that goes along with to the actual user, to the gig worker or driver, as you say. Yeah.
And then you said there's like your addressable market could be up to 4 billion people that are either underinsured or not insured, 100 million companies. My first question is like, what are they currently doing if they don't have insurance? They're just operating with no insurance?
Yeah, well, so you're talking to people who carry these risks themselves. So like, well, for example, I've just been on an aeroplane just now, which was 36 hours late. So I set off that journey carrying the risk of it might be late, but potentially we could insure that late flight if it was like 3 or 4 hours late, then we could make an instant payout. So I think a lot of people carry a lot of risk in their life that they would prefer not to if they could. But the insurance industry, kind of doesn't respond to it very well. It's like when an event happens, like a flood or a hurricane or something. The insurance industry is very quick to point out 50 billion of losses or some big number, and then they only pay out 800 million or something. Because most of the risks aren't actually covered in and that's the part that we're trying to address. It's for the kind of blue collar worker, the Joe Smo or whoever you define these people, the person who's got a market stall in somewhere that 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 have all the fire damages and thefts and all this sort of thing, but just cannot access insurance. And we're partnering with telcos and these different platforms to actually enable them to easily buy insurance and to easily get hold of this insurance. And the advent of the phone and the smartphone and the growing sort of platform businesses, that's the kind of new distribution, if you like, and embedding that insurance into these processes that people have, and then the insurance kind of comes with that process, so that you can actually offset that risk that you normally carry, today, sort of thing. You can carry that.
Would that gig worker at I keep going back to Uber, sorry to use that example, but would they be signing up for multiple policies? Because you mentioned the car in the shop or maybe they're in the hospital, or is it all kind of fit under one policy, or is it just like a menu of things they can choose to keep adding on?
Yeah. So putting Uber aside, if you like, but that's how we see. We see that there would be a menu of things that you would have, like a slider, if you like, of different covers that you can adjust yourself, and then to be able to you know build that out, and it kind of comes with whatever partner you're with, and then you can then choose whether you want to, whether it's for travel, for life, where those sorts of covers that you could then adjust. And that's and we design those programs along with the partners so that they're relevant to their audience. So if you're a host type company for short term lets, you might have a property damage thing for your hosts, for when the guests come in. Whereas with a car, it's for the car, damage, the sort of dents and bumps type damage, and that those sort of things, so that we adjust it for depending on what sort of program that you have. But typically, it's they're kind of life covers, or their property covers, or they're like cyber covers, or sort of travel type covers that people have around, and we just build the program for each type of partner that we have.
It seems like there's like millions of use cases for certain types of risk. Are y'all? I'm assuming y'all are identifying what those are, but are you also getting like, can customers reach out and say, "Here's something I want to insure," and then y'all can figure out a program for how to insure it?
Yeah. So today, we're a B2B company. So yeah, we get a lot of inbound traffic from our customers, the Bs, if you like, the platform, saying, "Hey, can you do this for us?" And then we start building a specific kind of program for them, um, and build that out. So if it's we recently did something in Qatar, for example, where we work with a telco and built a loyalty program for their with their launch of their 5G program, so that they can when the customer signs up, they get insurance as part of their 5G. So that makes them, kind of exciting, if you like, and another feature for that 5G program versus somebody who hasn't got insurance. It kind of comes with their insurance. So their customers or their new customers, it's like a marketing program for them. But we build those sort of programs with them.
Okay, loaded question. How do y'all underwrite these things, and like how quickly is an underwriting period? Like what data do you need, and how do you kind of come to your answer of what you're willing to insure it for on these lots of different
Yeah.
nuanced risks?
So some of the programs, like the life type programs, we've got a lot of data on that already. We know the different rates for, we've been doing that a long time. For something that is a bit more innovative, like a property type damage, say with an IoT device, like a sensor or on a water pipe or a sensor in a room, then we do a lot of desk research and and uh, and collect as much information and data that we can from around the internet and our internal sources, and kind of come to a price that we think is right. And then we launch the program through like a pilot with our partner, and then adjust the program so that it works for both parties, so that it's relevant, i.e., that there are claims, the pricing's right, and the claims triggers are right. So these we can quickly come to a kind of a desktop price, and then launch and program. This whole process might take 10 or 12 weeks to get through that whole process. So then that we're more confident to launch with having completed like a pilot a pilot program with that. So along with the underwriting comes our technology that we embed that in, so we can get the data from our partners and see that in real time, which means that not collecting like most policies, you collect data once a year. We collect data every day off our partners, and then we can kind of see how it's going in kind of live or overnight. We can see how things are going.
And when I was on your website, I was looking at a case study that y'all provide insurance to farmers in like Uganda and Kenya and Tanzania. Because you're B2B, you're just going to the microfinance institution and getting data from them. And then that's how you work. You're not like on the ground learning from the farmers themselves.
No. So when you're selling a policy for literally 10 cents, you need distribution. So our kind of key is that we can work with distribution. We can sell thousands of policies, millions of policies, and process those numbers. Uh, and that's so the technology is key with that. And then next comes our ability to underwrite the actual risks. But and then the claims process is, we like to build the product kind of claims up, so we know how the claims are going to work before we get involved with this, with the program. So we're not later scrambling around trying to work out how we're going to adjust the loss. That the claims are all built in, embedded in the whole process, so that we pay the claims automatically, and that's what we do.
Y'all are in 12 different countries. Is there one kind of language for insurance, or do you have to learn kind of the nuances of each country and build products that fit kind of their laws and their beliefs and cultures? Or can you build one thing that can travel across the world?
Well, we think this is where I think we are trying to do that, and by building simple, relevant products. So as you know, lots of insurance policies are on hundreds of pages, almost 20, 30 pages, and loads of exclusions and all these things. Well, our policies tend to be over a couple of paragraphs, and we sell the policy on text almost. So it's very, if this happens, then you get paid this as the claim. So it's very simple. So people understand the risk. People, I think, around the world, all they have the same risks. Weather. They have weather risks. They have life risks. They have property risks. They have all these risks which are common around the world. And what they're struggling to do is find insurance to actually mitigate that risk. And that's kind of so we think it is kind of one common language that is simple, relevant insurance products, and building this kind of safety net that people want, so that they can go about their business, and with the knowledge that they've got, $1,000 in their pocket, if you like, and know that if something happens, they can quickly claim against that. Um, I think the micro finance and the new finance initiatives of banks are kind of ahead of insurance, and what they're doing is letting people get in the game, if you like, of taking a loan out, expanding themselves, exposing themselves to that risks. But if something happens, if they haven't got insurance, then they've not only taken a loan out that they now got to pay for somehow, but they've exposed themselves to a whole new area that they didn't need to in some ways. So having insurance, to quickly back up the finance, initiatives, if you like, of growing people's, wealth by taking out loans and letting them get on with life, then that's where I think the insurance industry can help, and we can help build that kind of safety net for these people that many people in the West have today, but many people in other parts of the world don't have, today. And that's what we're trying to kind of build.
Are there people out there that, and I'm assuming the answer is yes, but they don't even know what insurance is because it's never been introduced into their life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's people, yeah, no, definitely. And, there's also people that if they hear the insurance man coming, they lock the door, as well, because they don't want to talk to them, life insurance salesman and all this sort of stuff. So I think, the education for what insurance is and how it can best, help you in your life, needs to be picked up by the industry. And, you see, the adverts on television, they even like in America and in the UK, it's mostly treated as a joke. It's like, they make a joke of insurance, and they're mainly selling on price, which I don't think does the insurance industry kind of any good. And certainly, price is important, but really what is really important in the insurance industry is that you get the right cover and you get the right program for you and what you're doing. It's not just buy the cheapest policy. It should be, the education needs to be for people to actually learn how to look at, their risk and what they want, and get the policy or the cover that they need for what they're doing, not just think something's just a cheap price and get that.
Yeah, I love the transparency because it seems like even some of the policies that I have, I know many listeners can probably agree. It's like you get this policy, something happens, and it's like the one thing in the policy that it doesn't actually cover. The transparency
Yeah.
is huge.
Yeah, as it turns out, sort of thing.
Yeah.
There's many cases where you know two things happened, and you thought it was, and the insurance policy says no, it's only one thing, and although and then you end up in court or something, or you end up disappointed, and the the insurance industry, often when people buy insurance, it's not them who makes the claim because they're like dead or something, so it's actually their wife or their partner or their children that are making the claim, and they didn't buy the policy, so they're a new customer. It's a very odd product, if you like, that the thing that people are buying is the claim, and the thing that the insurance industry typically sells is the policy, but really they should be selling the transparency of the claim more than the policy. So that's where we come in. We try and build it claim up so that people know exactly what they can claim for, keeping it simple.
How have you determined what 12 countries you're in today? Have that just been following customers that are in those countries, or have you guys identified certain countries based on a set of parameters?
Yeah, well, so we came, our company came together as a merger of three companies. So we're in some of those countries already. So, and then we've kind of put ourselves out there, and a lot of the business has come to us. And we're now really in that position where we're now being much more strategic about what we're doing. And so, we've identified obviously the US, Central and South America, Africa, and South Asia as our kind of key targets of where we're going to grow our business. And we're busy building the kind of insurance regulatory and capability to service those industries, those countries at the moment.
And I asked the question about like the one language for all those countries, but like Southeast Asia has different laws than America and Africa, and then different cultures. So maybe my question is, I'll kind of start as like, how do you get going in a country? Are there different things you have to do for each country, or is it usually the same playbook?
Yeah, so we have like a playbook where we typically it would be a partner in the country that wants to work with us, and then we have to put the insurance capability behind them, which typically we have to find a fronting partner, a partner in insurance, indigenous kind of partner in that country, and then we sort of bring it back to our micro insurance company. So we have this sort of partner network that we're sort of building up, and that's the kind of the playbook we're putting together, so that insurance is, people talk about competition. I think it all should be more about partnership and building this, this sort of network around the world. And that's the sort of network of partners that we're building so that we can bring the innovation to the InsurTech world. We can bring the innovation to these new partners that we have, because many of the fronting carriers have never done this type of insurance before. So we kind of teach them how to do it as well, and become their partner in this new thing, so that they can help take the risk as well, and grow that kind of network of giving people more and more cover.
What is the craziest insurance policy that y'all offer? Like, what's the craziest thing that you insure that comes to mind?
Well, we do doorbell insurance, is one thing, if you
What's
like.
that?
So, well, it's like if you have a package on a doorstep, right? It gets stolen, and if you think about it, people might think that's okay because it's under our home contents policy, but that have a deductible of $300, $400, $500, $600 maybe. So that $80 package isn't covered under your existing policy. So along with the doorbell, we can sell insurance to cover those packages, up to like $200 or $300, and it means that then those packages are insured. Because that's a much more common way of shopping, or becoming a much more common way of shopping than going down the shops now. So your porch or your stoop or your door is now a place that you need insurance for, whereas before it wasn't. That's as an example of one of the things that we're doing.
I kind of want to ask a dumb question, and I know I'm getting granular here, but this is kind of interesting. So let's just say your package is stolen. How do you even prove that it was stolen? Is it all math and numbers to you that sometimes we'll get fraudulent claims, and like how do you even?
Yeah, so it comes along with the new doorbells, with cameras and things like that, and so you can't just do the normal push button doorbell. That would be it's not that sort of doorbell. It's the modern sort of IoT type doorbell. So we see, along with IoT devices, all the devices that you can think of, then insurance can be embedded in with those, and that's kind of. I mean, we don't think it's crazy. We think it's quite normal in a way, but that's what people think. Wow, how did that happen? But we're doing that. So ensuring smart buildings, buildings becoming more smart, and we're kind of adding in the smart insurance, if you like, to go along with those sorts of things.
When we were chatting on our pre-call, you had made a quote that I wrote down, and you just kind of said, and it's on the topic of kind of global expansion, which are doing globally, but you just said there's not many businesses that are actually set up to prosper globally. And so my question is, what did you mean by that, and why?
Yeah, so I mean, this is like, the insurance industry is designed by design to be, national or even state, set up. The insurance industry, they're regulated by state, by country, by region. They're not actually regulated globally. So it's very hard for insurance companies to if they've got businesses in I don't know, in Seattle or in San Francisco, and their local insurer can't help them globally, because of they're regulated locally or in that state. So it's a big step for those people who've had that very traditional bringing up of insurance to think about insuring something in Thailand, that from a company that is in in San Francisco or in New York or in Berlin or something. It's very hard for them to get across that. So they need, you need to be thinking around, mimicking, the platform insurance, and we call ourselves like a full stack insurance company. So we've got the technology, we've got the thinking, we've got the design to actually have that kind of international and global thinking from the get-go with our team of people. We think about that, how are we going to build this global network to help support our customers, because of a company like an Airbnb or whatever, they can start one day and then within a very short period of time have a global business. But that's very, very hard to do for an insurance company. because of all the regulation you have to go through. So we're building this network of partners to actually cater for that, and bringing that together. But you need that kind of global thinking, really, and to get over problems, not think of them as barriers, but actually get over those problems,
Right.
and do that.
Can you speak a little bit more to kind of the technology and kind of y'all's, I don't know, secret sauce? You don't have to spill your guts on the podcast, but like, what are y'all doing with technology that's better than the rest?
Well, I don't know about better, different maybe. There's some great technology out there, and it's really bringing in the idea of data and dealing with the data at a kind of granular level. I think from the get go. So building in our own analytics engines, building in AI and machine learning, thinking, and how to start a program when you've got no data. How do you start a program, with no data, but then in a year's time have a ton of data that will overwhelm people? How do you work towards getting that our technology to work? And we've been through various programs and various cycles of getting AI to work, for example, off very, very low levels of data, and then scaling it up so that it actually works, for like, cars, scratch and dent and things like that, in a very short period of time. And bringing that technology in-house rather than outsourcing it to somebody, because of these new InsurTechs and things, and service companies around the insurance industry, are kind of a bit of a worry, I think, to many of the incumbents, because if you're capable of processing the claims very quickly and very cost effectively, our thinking is, why would you outsource that? You've got to bring that in-source. So one of our secret sauce is the ability to actually build technology and actually build a full stack insurance company. So it's not that our technology is any better. It's just that we don't outsource it. We bring it in-house, and then have that kind of capability to build and own our own customer journeys, rather than relying on external companies and external people to tell you how to build a customer journey. We have all that stuff in house and know how to do it. So, and knowing also that our customers haven't all got smartphones, so we go from text messaging all the way up to a smartphone sort of customer journey, and that's important to understand within your business. It's not just some Silicon Valley idea, if you like, of everybody having an iPhone. You've got to think that many people have just very cheap phones that don't operate that way, and you've got to be, and they're the people with the problems that we deal with.
And really, in all the countries you're operating, even everybody at least has like a flip phone or something. Is that generally true at this point?
Well, that's generally where our market is. We work with various telco companies, so obviously they all those people have a phone. So that's typically that's more typical than anything. That's how we operate, and that's really the things that back in the year 2000, it was who had broadband as a thing in the West, if you like, and that enabled the internet to grow. It enabled Amazon to grow, if you like. Without broadband, shopping wouldn't exist, sort of thing. And that's what we're seeing, is that the mobile phone is enabling it's enabling lots of e-commerce, if you like, but particularly insurance to grow and proliferate now, because you can actually communicate with the end user a bit better.
A little more detail on kind of behind the scenes, but in a kind of a global remote world. How is your tech team set up? Is it remote all over the world, or are they all in a central location?
Well, they were all central, but then COVID happened and they all went home. But yeah, our tech team's in India principally, but we've got teams in tech people in India and Pakistan, and our goal is to grow that out into other regions around, to give us more kind of 24-hour kind of servicing. But today it's principally in India, and we were actually setting up a big office in India, but then COVID happened, so mostly they're dispersed, and that's really enabled. I mean, we all want to get back to the office, I think, and get team building and all those good things, but it's also helped us build a much more distributed network of skills. I mean, I I don't know, I added up the other day, 3 or 4 thousand kind of Zoom type calls, if you like, in the last year. It's crazy. And that's a lot of education, how to talk, how to talk to your team, how to act remotely, how to hire people remotely, how to fire people remotely, how to encourage them, all these things we've had to learn in the last year. But that's, I think, is good for the future, because it means that we can, for us anyway, we can quickly operate and set up things remotely without having to think of building an office first, or doing something like that.
After a year of doing 3 or 4 thousand, do you believe that you can long-term build great relationships just through Zoom, or do you feel like there has to be a combination of both?
Definitely a combination. I mean, it's why I'm in Panama today, seeing our network. Our people. It's literally a slender opportunity to come down here, and it's like the first opportunity to really travel down to see them in the last 18 months. And within 10 minutes of meeting them, it was literally aha moments went off. That's what you mean, because you can get on it. It's something different about having a pen in your hand and a whiteboard and looking them in the eye, and putting that right emphasis on words and hearing their emphasis on words in real life, if you like, real person that matters. So I think you definitely need, we'd definitely be keeping that as a central part of building our relationships with people.
What's your, like, could you just describe as the CEO of the company, like what do you do every day? What's your job?
What is my job?
Whack-a-mole.
Yeah, well, sort of. I mean, I start work at 5 a.m. in the morning, on calls, because of, I think, it's important for me to be up when our people in India and Pakistan are up, and I finish at 5 a.m. in the evening. That's kind of my 12-hour day. So the first 5 or 6 hours is very much operational type, how sales are going, how operations are going, everyday events, going through, if you like, whack-a-mole things, making, keeping direction there. And then the last part of the day is on kind of strategy and sales, and helping encourage our teams and having one-to-ones and team building. So I have that kind of split day most days.
Okay. On piggybacking off that, we met through our mutual friend Stanton through Culture Index. Can you just speak a little bit to how you think about Culture Index and why it's important to you and the companies that you run?
Yeah. I'll be assuming that people know what Culture Index is, or should we just tell them to go and have a look at cultureindex.com and
go take a look at cultureindex.com, and you can answer it assuming that they kind of know.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm a kind of a data person. So I like to know data points on most things that I do. And I'm a kind of a believer in, if you want somebody to do something, they got to have certain traits. They need to be a self-starter. They need to be independent. They need to be, impatient or whatever it is, if you want them to do things fast or take ownership of things. And so what Culture Index does is help you look at, profile the sort of person you want in terms of their traits, and and then take a very short 10-minute test, and it miraculously gives you their traits, and then you can kind of know whether they're the right fit for your business and the right fit for you. And knowing how you operate or how I operate also means that you or I can adjust our way of working to each other, to suit each other. Such as, one of my business partners, he likes to tell a story of first before he gets to the actual problem. So he likes to tell you this whole rambling thing, and that kind of used to annoy me. And I used to be jumping in, talking over him, and trying to, come on, second guess him. And then we did the Culture Index. We found that that was his trait, and my trait was to do something faster. So now we know this, kind of on paper. I now let him go on a little bit, and he knows that I'm impatient, so it all shortens it down, and we can get to the nub of the problem quicker, basically. So it's just a way of working with each other. It's a really good tool for team building, and a really good tool to hire in the people for what you want them to do, if you like, so that they fit with the culture of the business.
I love it. All right, two more kind of questions on the business. What do you do with Warren Buffett's famous for having all this float and doing lots of cool things with it? do you think about float at all in your business? Does it matter to you, and what do you do with it?
So no, well, we're kind of a bit. I mean, we're kind of a startup, obviously, and although we've been going for a couple of years and we've got like 120 odd employees, etc., we still see ourselves as a startup. So we're constantly on the move, constantly pivoting and changing and pushing into new directions, and building the teams and building the processes. So I don't know. I don't really think of the float, if you like, because of our business. It churns. Our business churns very fast. Most insurance companies, if you like, they've got a pulse of once a year that they're actually doing something. They place a policy once a year and then hope for the best. We're placing policies every couple of hours. We're churning, so we're working very fast and using our reserves and our capital many times over in a year, not building up a great kind of capital base of our business. It's a much more leaner, faster use of capital and than typically most insurance companies have.
Are you venture backed, private equity backed? You funding it? How are you all capital? Or like, how do you think about raising capital as you grow?
Yeah, so we are. We've over the last 2 or 3 years, we've kind of backed it ourselves and built it up ourselves. We've really put our life and souls into this in order to uh, really steer the ship in the direction we wanted to. And now we're just going out to raise funds at the moment. Having built the business into something that's got a proven model and a proven use case, if you like, and we've kind of put a lot of the early ups and downs of a business behind us, so that it kind of a bit more attractive. So we're just about to go out to really our first big round and do that. So we're just doing that at the moment.
I love it. All right. At the end of this company, like what would be a great outcome? Where does the company what's like the end goal here?
Well, so we're very much. I mean, I'm very much a believer in a big vision and doing something that has got some infinity and beyond, if you like, type of mission. What we're doing is we're building this sort of safety net for people that they can take advantage of as they go about their business, and which is going to take continual change of insurance and business. But that's kind of that's the big vision, if you like, building that safety net for people. We've got a traditional route of raising some capital and heading for an IPO and then growing out the value of the business for our shareholders and our employees alike, and growing this business into hopefully to become the biggest micro insurance business, embedded insurance business in the world. And that's our mission, to do that. We hope we can encourage more of the insurance industry to go down that route and for us to partner with and to help us grow that safety net. It's not we're not thinking we can grow that safety net completely by ourselves. It's a huge millions and million trillions of dollars sort of opportunity. So we just want to be a significant player in that and to grow our business towards that, but through hopefully an IPO and think going forward.
All right. A couple questions on just like leadership and challenges you've had, and then some personal ones. But you just said business is about having the right people around you. It can be an accident or on purpose. I've been through both, and there is a need to work on yourself to ensure this becomes intentional. Like, how do you think about that?
Yeah, so I mean, personally, I've got this sort of saying of being conscious about things that you do. So many people go about accidents of life. Part of my accident was leaving, getting out of the software industry, like into insurance. That was a kind of a happy accident. But I've become a much more kind of conscious about it, hence doing, the micro insurance business. So, and these are things that I try and do, really think about, hence using things like the culture index, to actually intentionally think, who do you want around you? What sort of people do you want around you? What partners do you want? What companies do you want to work with, and intentionally go out and do that. So, that's like an everyday thing with me and the team, and bringing those kind of conscious thoughts into the team and building those subtly into everyday parts of the team building and culture of our business is what I've been working on, for the past year. I mean, we just put together a vision board for the company. So, not tell people objectives, but to give them a vision of where they're going. So we put a vision board together and presenting that to the company, because I believe that if you can sort of create that, then everybody can buy into that vision a lot easier through a vision board than like 5 bullet points or something like that. So doing things a bit more creatively and consciously around that.
All right, you've started businesses, since you were a young lad, and now you're starting this one. Like, is there one lesson that comes to mind of something you did early on that you would never do again, or just like a great learning experience that you can only learn through, being in the fight for a long time?
Yeah, I think being a lot more transparent with everybody that's around you about what your real intention is and what you really want out of this business, and trying to encourage them to tell you that as well, not just you tell it one way, and hearing the kind of from your partners, and then them never really telling you what they want to do either, and then you suddenly find a year or two later that you're in two different places. So it's actually trying to battle that out and make sure you're all on the same page to move forward, because then you can pivot together and you can move together a lot more. And I think that's where I've failed in the past, is by thinking I've been going in one direction, but then not actually bringing everybody along behind me, and properly, or leaning their way and them leaning my way a bit. That's really what I think has been my big learning, having got to my age now. Really trying to work on that and to work on myself to be kind of transparent about what I want to do, and being very clear about that, making sure that that you listen to what they're telling you, not just assume what they're telling you. It's listening skills, I guess.
Did you start this business with people that you had started other companies, or is everybody fresh, or you got the gang back together?
So yeah, my main business partner, we've known each other for like 20 years, and there's a couple of people in the business I've known similar time. But we did acquire this. We did acquire one of the companies, during COVID. So I've never met the old, the CEO of that company that's now the head of sales. I've never met all the team in that business, face to face. So they're all new. But this is again where things like the culture index has helped us get to know them a lot better, a lot more. Actually look at, kind of lift their bonnet on them, so you can actually get to know them a bit quicker and play that back and have these. Using those sorts of tools to have that very open discussion and to sort of accelerate that learning process. So that's how we've done it. But it's not the old gang. It's like half the old gang and a half a new gang, if you like, come together.
I said I wouldn't ask another insurance question, but I do have one because you brought up COVID. Has experiencing COVID, is there going to be big impacts on the insurance industry in general because of what we experienced through COVID, or it was already kind of underwritten into the, the risk, and things will continue as usual?
Well, I don't think it would continue as usual. I think, they talk about accelerating technology and accelerating all these things. So I think there is going to be a big change in the industry about how it operates, in terms of its cost model. I think from the underwriting point of view, the product point of view, I think that's still going to take a long time to change, to get innovation building in through the insurance industry, and that's the bit that we're really focused on, is bringing these sort of new products to life, if you like, and that's always been hard. It's why I set up the insurance company in the first place, because we'd go to Lloyd's, we'd go to all the big insurance players, and they kind of didn't get what we were talking about. That might have been my fault, but the but our view is that they would say yes, 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 and then about 6 or 8 months later say, oh no, because some compliance reason or some other thing that they kind of make up, so they wouldn't do it. So that's why we set up our company in the first place, so we could know what we're doing from an underwriting point of view from day one. And I think the insurance industry needs to innovate and understand that the insurance could be twice as big. There's the penetration of the insurance industry is quite high in places like America or Europe, where there's also a social network in social network in Europe, but in many other parts of the world, the penetration rate is 1 or 2%, where it should be like 10% of GDP or something. So there's a big way to go with insurance, and I think all that is where the innovation should come in. It shouldn't be taking the old products to them; it should be new products.
All right, a few personal ones, and then we'll bring it home. What is one thing that you believe in that most people around you don't believe in?
Blimey, should I say this? Well, kind of like spirituality, if you like. I like. I believe in putting things out there that you want, and they come to you if you're honest about how you put it out there, and kind of do develop business that way. I guess putting that out, doing meditation, and drawing those sort of business, that sort of universal kind of believing the universe will give you if you ask for it. Basically, I think that's one of the things that I do.
All right, what's the best advice you've ever been given?
Crikey, I don't listen very much in the past. So that's one of the things. I guess it's to listen has actually turned out to be the best advice. And I think my dad might have said that to me, and I didn't listen. It's just taken me a long time to actually get there with that.
All right, last question. Is there a book, either business or personal, that comes to mind that you've loved over the years?
Well, I do read a lot of books, and I listen to a lot of books on, as well, on like things like Audible. One was years ago, and I just like the title, which is like thriving on chaos. I do like to thrive on things changing a lot. So that's kind of one of in my head, I always think of that title, if not the book. And then a recently one is Rocket Fuel, which is, it's where you get the visionary and the integrator coming together and having that partner to find. Either you're an integrator or a visionary, but having the two people together is really important in a business, and to sort out who is the visionary and who's the integrator, and really focusing on that. And that's a really good book to read if you get hold of that, and particularly if you're a CEO or COO of a business. I really like that book, and that's a recent one I've just kind of got through.
By Gino Wickman. I've read that one too. It's great. All right, how can people find your business? Microinsurance.com. Any other way?
Well, they can go on LinkedIn and come and chat to me on LinkedIn, or microinsurance.com. You can get hold of us there. I think that's the two easiest ways to get to us. Because of phoning me is a bit useless because I'm all over the place in terms of different parts of the world. But just get hold of me on LinkedIn, or you might. I think the email address is on the website.
Harry, thank you so much for joining me today. This was awesome. I loved it.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much for your time, and speak to you soon.